Hi, John Rayleigh here with UtilityProfit. In the following video, I'm going to walk you through a few different things with our platform to include the move-in experience from a tenant perspective, how you're going to have transparency on tenants connecting utilities and what they've established at the property they've been approved for, and lastly, how our platform can help generate additional revenue per door. So let's get started. Now, when we think about the traditional move-in experience from a tenant perspective, it's always kind of been the same. The tenant gets approved for the property. They're excited to get moved into that new home. And the tenant will always have to set up at least one of these services, if not all of them, depending on the property requirements and depending on the tenant's needs. So starting with city utilities, that's a given. Tenants will always have to get, electric or gas or water, whatever's required at that property, into their name as of the lease start date. Then you've got internet, television, et cetera. And usually tenants are kind of left to fend for themselves, where they've got to figure out who the local municipality companies are, the phone numbers, the websites, how to get services connected. Then you've got internet, you're either calling to a bunch of service providers or jumping all over Google to see who services the property, what the promotions are, can I transfer my existing internet? And the list goes on. And I've rented in the past, I'm sure you have. It's always kind of been a pain in the butt. And we thought to ourselves, why don't we just build a platform that's really easy to use, get into the fingertips of the tenant so they know exactly what's required at the property and how to get those services completed, while also providing transparency to the property management company so the PMs know what services have been initiated by the tenant and when those have been initiated. So that's what we've developed here at UtilityProfit. And the way that the implementation works, it's very simple. So wherever you currently talk about utilities, and maybe that's in the approval letter or the welcome email, we would just adjust some of the messaging to say something along the lines of, before handing over the keys to your property, it's essential to get utilities put into your name. To streamline this process, we provide a platform through which you can do this. And then there will be a link that the tenant will click on, and this link will all be custom branded for your property management company. So the tenant, doesn't see UtilityProfit or hear UtilityProfit. It's all branded for your company. And when the tenant clicks on that link, that'll take them to a setup and confirm screen. So that screen will look very similar to this page right here. So again, this is one area where everything is housed on what they need to do to get services completed at their property that they've been approved for. Again, all branded for your property management company. So if the tenant clicks on internet, they can see at a glance who the service providers are at the property. So I can see in this example, AT&T and Spectrum. Those are my options. I can easily compare the pricings, the promotions, the incentives, the speeds, kind of whatever they got going on for new customers. And then whichever one makes sense for me, I just select the package. I input whatever information is required by that specific provider. And that's it. We have direct integrations into each of the internet companies. So that sends right over to AT&T. AT&T processes the order, and then that notifies the tenant once the service has been completed. Now, when it comes to the core services, if we don't have a direct integration, so like the local water company, likely not going to be directly integrated, we're always going to at least provide the tenant the website, the phone number, whatever steps they need to know to get that service completed and set up. So again, this is nice for the tenant because everything is housed in one location for them, all in one area. So when they complete that service initiation, instead of maybe emailing you the confirmation numbers and you're chasing them down an email at a time to verify they've set up those utilities, they just input that new account confirmation ID or account number within the platform, save it, and that completes out that service. And then they just do the rest for whatever else is required at the property in order to get the keys. The other thing is, if the tenant does have any questions along the way, there's a chat support. There's even a live phone number they can call. Our call center is based in Austin, so we'll guide them through whatever questions, hiccups, hurdles that they're running into as they get those services completed. So we're almost like an extension of your team when it comes to all things utilities. So this is the tenant-facing side. As you can imagine, tenants love it. They like having everything in one location. They like the familiar branding, and they like the fact that they can use a chat support, text message, and phone call feature if they do run into any questions. Now, when it comes to the admin dashboard, the admin dashboard looks very similar to this. So this is an example of a live partner. But within your dashboard, you've got the custom link that the tenant would use to start initiating their services. You have a utility activation section where you can actually see all the utilities that have been completed and set up by the tenant. And then you have the synced listing section. So our platform will integrate with your property management software. So every time there's a new vacancy, this will automatically load within your synced listing section. Now, if you have properties where maybe the tenant's not required to put gas into their name or water or trash, it's very easy to toggle and untoggle the requirements. You just select the address, you uncheck gas or water, you hit confirm, and then that'll disable it. That way the tenant's not trying to set up gas service if maybe the property doesn't have gas. And again, as an example, our mapping application preloads the providers in that area. So your team does not have to input every single electric and water provider per address. Our internal system's automatically running and doing that. So in this case, if we don't have an integration, again, we're still going to provide the direct sign-on page for the tenant to go right to and start initiating those services to really make it really helpful for them. And then on the admin dashboard, again, you'll be able to get an additional level of transparency. So when the tenant comes and gets the keys, or maybe you're dropping them off, you're going to know that they're green and everything's good to go. Or you can get ahead of situations where they have not set up utilities and remind them, hey, make sure you get utilities connected. Here's your keys, but I noticed you haven't completed the electricity yet. You'll also be able to click on the address directly and get a more detailed view to see the day they initiated the service, the provider that they went with, and then the confirmation or account IDs for verification. Lastly, our platform is at no cost, so there is no setup fee, there's no onboarding fee, there's no monthly gold, silver package, any of that. It's completely free to use and to implement. And the reason why that is because we actually generate revenue through our paid service providers. So for example, internet, that's a big one. Whenever a tenant sets up internet, let's say with AT&T, AT&T pays us revenue for initiating that service activation. And then we actually pass a portion of that revenue back to our partners. The revenue that's been generated will all live within your platform. So you'll be able to see the total revenue that's been generated. You'll also be able to see the revenue that's being pending to be paid out to you. Again, this will all live within your platform, but it's more about tenant move-in experience. So again, the tenant has a much more streamlined experience to know what needs to get connected and how to get those services connected. And then also, you and your team now have full transparency and visibility on all properties and what services are set up by those tenants. And then kind of the cherry on top is knowing, hey, we're making some additional found revenue per door. And that's it. Our platform is as simple as that for you, for your tenants, for your team. If you do have any questions about the platform, please be sure to reach out to your direct support contact. Thank you, and we're here for you. I'm very excited to partner with you.